What is Ohio Issue 1 and what does it mean?
Issue 1 is a constitutional amendment, which means it will be added to the highest level of law in the state of Ohio. All forms of government, including the Ohio legislature and the Ohio courts, must conform to the words of the Constitution.
So what is the language Ohio voters are being asked to approve?
Every word in a constitutional amendment matters. When the provisions of this measure are challenged, the courts will presume that the people of Ohio meant every word on the page. If definitions are lacking, or certain clauses are left intentionally vague, the courts will presume the amendment was open for interpretation. What other choice will they have? Many people have reviewed this language and have come away with more questions than answers. Here are just a few.
What is the new right being created and placed in the Constitution? Because the actual words state every individual has a right to make and carry out one's own reproductive decisions.
Well, the new right is actually a series of rights called reproductive decisions. If this amendment were just about the right to abortion, it could have been written that way. But the words right to an abortion never appear.
How many rights are there in this amendment?
5 rights are listed: contraception, fertility treatment, continuing one's own pregnancy, miscarriage care, and abortion, which is last on the list.
Are there more rights than the ones listed here?
Since the language is insistent that the list is not limited to these 5 decisions or rights, what will stop a court from adding more items under this new human right? How many reproductive decisions are there? And who will decide what others exist? Perhaps not today, but in the future. Is cloning a reproductive decision? Are gender selection abortions a reproductive decision? Are gender-altering surgeries reproductive decisions?
What about children?
This amendment only talks about individuals. There is no protection for children in any of the language. Whatever benefits are available to every individual are also available for children, who legally are individuals.
Is there a provision made for parental rights?
No, parents are not mentioned in this amendment at all.
Can the Ohio legislature modify or regulate this language?
No. The state is prohibited from interfering in any way with an individual's exercise of the right to reproductive decisions, or interfering with any person or entity that assists an individual exercising any of the 5 rights on the list.
Is there some form of exception?
There is. It reads this way: unless the state demonstrates that it is using the least restrictive means to advance an individual's health in accordance with widely accepted and evidence-based standards of care.
What does that sentence even mean?
Great question. It looks like that's what a court will have to decide, because there is no further definition or explanation given.
Time out. Ohio has lots of existing laws on the books regarding abortion, parental consent, and the protection of minors. What happens to these laws?
That is true. And all of those laws are statutes. A new right placed in the Constitution calls all of those laws into question. Every one of them is subject to review based on the new right of reproductive decisions.
Will abortion be legal throughout all 9 months of pregnancy?
The amendment does not use those exact words, but states only that abortion may be prohibited after fetal viability. Note, the law does not read that abortion shall be prohibited after fetal viability, so it may or may not be prohibited.
Who decides on the viability of an unborn child?
The definition of viability is left solely in the hands of the physician treating the pregnant individual. If that physician decides aborting a viable human child is necessary to protect the patient's life or health, no one can prohibit the procedure.
What are the rules on determining viability?
Fetal viability means the point in a pregnancy when, in the professional judgment of the treating physician, the fetus has a significant likelihood of survival outside the uterus with reasonable measures.
What are reasonable measures? How are they defined?
They are not defined. This is to be determined by the treating physician alone on a case-by-case basis.
What is the definition of life or health of the patient?
No definition is given. It is solely the discretion of the treating physician. No one can challenge that decision.
Does this write abortion providers like Planned Parenthood into the Ohio Constitution?
Not by name. But Planned Parenthood or any other abortion provider can claim exclusive legal authority to define viability and avoid any form of liability for terminating the lives of viable children. The legislature may not pass a statute regulating viability because this amendment prohibits any such interference.
Will this language be challenged before the Ohio Supreme Court?
Regardless of how many challenges are brought, the Ohio Supreme Court is obligated by law to abide by the state constitution as approved by the voters of the state. They cannot unwrite what is written. Courts have been known to fill in the blanks, however. The court is obligated to protect and uphold every word of this language, no matter how poorly written or defined.
Who wrote this amendment creating the right to unlimited reproductive decisions?
No one has claimed authorship over this language. A group of Ohioans submitted the petition language to the state. Requests to the lawyer representing these petitioners regarding the authorship of the amendment have not been answered to date.
Believe it or not, there are more questions than these regarding what these words will mean for the people of Ohio for generations to come. You can read the entire amendment at seethelanguage.com.
Voting on this amendment in Ohio begins October 11th and concludes on Election Day, November the 7th.
Before you vote on Issue 1, please see the language. Thank you.